In a galaxy filled with giant spaceships, laser wars, and powerful alien kings, there lived a very small, very quiet princess named Zarian. She was born on the peaceful planet Leora. Her people were kind, smart, and good with science, but they were small, very small. While other aliens were 10 feet tall, the Lyrans were only 4 feet. Their skin was soft and light blue. Their eyes glowed in the dark, like tiny stars. That Princess Zareen was the daughter of King Thalon and Queen Mirai. She was beautiful, but not in the way other aliens liked. She was soft, shy, and didn't speak much. Other royal families wanted strong, powerful warriors. Zarian? She liked books, stars, and silence. When she turned 19, her parents began searching for a husband for her. They believed only a royal marriage could protect Liora. So they sent messages across the galaxy. Princess Zarian of Leora is ready for alliance. She is kind, intelligent, and full of grace. Any noble prince may request her hand in marriage. They waited. Days passed. Then weeks, then months. One by one, answers came back. No. Too small, too weak. She cannot fight. She cannot rule. From the fire worlds of Dravax to the icy moons of Kelthar, every alien prince rejected her. Some even laughed. The worst came from the Titan Empire. Their prince sent a reply. Why would I marry a doll? Zarian saw the message. She said nothing. But that night, she sat alone in her tower and cried. She had done nothing wrong. She never hurt anyone. But still, no one wanted her. In the big galaxy, she was just a small, unwanted name. Far away, something unexpected happened. A strange ship entered Leoran space. It was not big, not shiny, and not royal. It was old, scratched, and flying without permission. Leoran guards prepared their weapons. They waited for attack, but the ship did not fire. It crash-landed near the palace forest. From the smoke, one figure stepped out. He wore black boots, a brown jacket, and had a scar under his left eye. He was tall, strong, and human. His name was Captain Rayan. He looked around, confused but calm. He held up his hands, showing he had no weapons. I'm not here to fight, he said. Just need help. Guards surrounded him. The king was informed. The queen was afraid. No human had ever come to Leora before. It was forbidden. But Zarian was curious. That night, when everyone was asleep, she quietly walked through the palace halls. Her tiny feet made no sound. She entered the room where they were keeping the human. He sat on the floor, looking up at the stars through a small window. She stood at the door, watching. Then she spoke softly. You're not afraid? He turned, surprised. Of what? He asked. Everyone else fears my people. You don't. Rayan smiled. It wasn't a fake royal smile. It was real. You don't look scary to me, he said. You look thoughtful. Zarian blinked. No one had ever said that to her before. They sat in silence for a while. She asked him about Earth. He asked her about Leora. She laughed, a small laugh, but it was real. And for the first time, Zarian felt something she never felt before. Seen. Not as a tool. Not as a princess. Not as a weak alien, but as a person. The next morning, the king ordered that the human be removed from the palace. We will fix his ship and send him back, he said. He has no place here. Zarian wanted to speak, but stopped herself. She walked back to her tower. She stood near her window and watched the sky. Her eyes searched for the stars beyond the clouds. And in her heart, something had changed. The human was not strong like the alien warriors. He had no crown, no army. But he had courage and kindness. He didn't look at her with pity. He didn't see her as small. He saw her as someone worth talking to. Maybe the galaxy didn't need another warlord. Maybe it needed someone who listened, and maybe, just maybe, the princess no one wanted was about to become the queen everyone feared. But not yet. Because deep inside the palace, something ancient was waking up, something powerful, something waiting. And it had chosen her, asterisk, in a palace where every visitor bows before the royal family. One man stood tall. Not out of pride, but because he didn't believe in kings. He believed in people. Captain Rayan sat quietly inside the palace holding room. He wasn't handcuffed. He wasn't chained. But guards watched him like he might explode at any second. He didn't care. His ship was broken. His body tired, but his mind sharp as ever. He had landed here by accident. Liara wasn't even on his map. And now he was sitting inside a blue glowing room, surrounded by aliens who didn't trust him. He smiled to himself. At least the food's not bad, he whispered, looking at the strange glowing fruit on the table. Then the door opened. The king himself walked in, tall, serious, dressed in robes made of silver threads. Soldiers followed. Rayan stood up, but he didn't bow. Everyone in the room froze. The king narrowed his eyes. On Liara. We bow to royalty. Rayan looked him straight in the face. And on earth, we shake hands with equals. The guards moved forward, but the king raised a hand. He studied Rayan carefully. This man was strange, not disrespectful. Just different. Without a word, the king turned and left. Rayan sat back down. He didn't come to fight, but if they wanted to test him, he'd be ready. That night someone entered the room silently. No guards, no footsteps. It was Zaren. She wore a cloak, her face hidden under the hood. But her glowing eyes gave her away. You didn't bow, she said. No, Rayan replied. I don't bow to anyone I don't respect. Zaren walked closer. She stood only half his height. Her voice was calm, but her heart was racing. Do you respect me? She asked. Rayan looked at her. You came here alone, in the middle of the night, just to ask that? Yes, she whispered. He thought for a second. I don't know you, he said. But you're the only person here brave enough to talk to me without a weapon, so yeah, that counts. Zaren didn't know what to say. No one ever talked to her like this. Not even her own family. For years, she was told to sit still, smile, and wait for someone to choose her. But this man, this human, he didn't treat her like a prize. He treated her like a person. The next morning, rumors started. Servants whispered. The princess spoke to the human. Advisors warned the king, she's breaking rules. The queen was silent. But her eyes were full of worry. Zaren didn't care. She went back again that night. And the night after that. And every time. They talked about stars. About Earth. About war and peace. Rayan told her stories, not of glory, but of mistakes. He told her how Earth once nearly destroyed itself with greed and hate. But humans learned, not all of them, but enough to try again. Zaren listened. And for the first time, she didn't feel small. One day, while walking in the lower library of the palace, Rayan found something strange, a hidden panel behind an old bookcase. Inside was an ancient scroll, written in old Lioran language. He couldn't read it. But Zaren could. As she read the words out loud, her hands trembled. A time will come when the galaxy turns dark, she whispered. A forgotten voice shall rise, not born of fire or blade, but of silence and shadow. She will bring light and walk beside one who has no crown. They looked at each other. Was this about her? Outside, ships began moving in the stars. Powerful alien empires had learned of the human visitor. And they didn't like it. Not because he was dangerous, but because he was changing her, changing the quiet princess into something more. That night, Zaren stood on her balcony. The wind was cold. Her hair flowed like water under the moonlight. Rayan stood beside her. Do you believe in fate? She asked. I believe in choices, he said. You're more than what they say. You just need to show them. She looked up at him. And if I fall? He smiled. "Then I'll fall with you." In a galaxy full of warriors, armies, and kings, no one feared the soft-spoken princess. But now, they were starting to watch her, because she had something none of them did. Not strength, not size. But a human who didn't bow, and the galaxy had no idea what that meant. The royal halls of Leora had never been so quiet, not even during war drills, not even during storm nights, but today, the silence was heavy, like the whole palace was holding its breath. Why? Because someone had seen Princess Zarin walking beside a human again, not in the shadows, not in secret, but in the open courtyard, and she was smiling. Whispers flew through the palace like fire. She spoke to him again. He touched her hand. Did he bow? No, he never bows. Royal advisors gathered like vultures. Nobles shook their heads. The queen remained silent, but her eyes no longer looked at her daughter the same way. And the king? He was furious. Princess Zarin was summoned to the royal chamber. She stood alone before the throne. Her head was high, but her hands were shaking. King rose from his seat. His voice was cold. "Have you forgotten who you are?" Zarin answered softly. "No, father. I'm just starting to remember." Gasps filled the room. "You walk with an outsider, a man with no bloodline, no title, no empire, but he has honor," Zarin said, "and eyes that don't look down on me." The king's face turned red. "This is not Earth. We do not choose with heart. We choose with duty." Zarin didn't shout. She didn't cry. She only said one thing: "Then maybe duty is broken." The scandal spread beyond the palace. All across Leora, people talked. Some called her brave. Others called her foolish. But something was changing. For the first time, citizens looked at their princess not as a silent flower, but as someone with fire in her voice. Even the palace guards started whispering, "She's not like her parents. She walks like she's ready to lead." Rayan, meanwhile, felt the weight of what was happening. He knew what it looked like, a human soldier getting too close to royalty. The galaxy had strict rules about such things, but he didn't come to cause chaos. He only stayed because he saw something in Zarin that no one else did. Not weakness, but greatness. A kind that didn't wear a crown, but earned it. One evening, Rayan was exploring the lower chambers again when he noticed something strange. A wall, just a plain wall, but it gave off a hum. He placed his hand on it. A soft light appeared. Zarin arrived moments later. She saw what he saw. "This room hasn't been open for hundreds of years," she whispered. They pressed their palms together on the wall. It opened. Inside was a small, circular room filled with carvings, showing a Leoran princess standing beside a tall outsider. Behind them, stars exploded. Wars ended. Peace began. Zare and stepped closer. "It's us," she said softly. "This was seen long ago. They tried to erase it," Rayan added. "But destiny doesn't stay buried." Back in the throne room, the king met with leaders from other alien empires. One of them, a massive lizard-like ambassador from the Vrax Dominion, hissed with rage. "You allowed your daughter to bond with a human? This is treason." The king was ashamed. But deep inside, a fear was growing, because even the prophecy keepers were beginning to whisper, "The outsider has arrived. The quiet one has awakened." Later that night, guards came to take Rayan from his quarters. Zarin arrived just in time to stop them. "Touch him, and I leave the palace." The guards froze. "You're a princess," one said. "Where would you go?" "Wherever I'm respected," she replied, "even if it's Earth." The guards looked at each other and left. Rayan turned to her, surprised. "You would leave all this for someone like me?" She smiled. "You saw me when I didn't even see myself." Outside, in the dark space around Leora, warships were starting to move. Alien empires didn't just want the human gone, They wanted Zarin controlled or destroyed, because a princess who thinks for herself is more dangerous than any army. And so, in the middle of a scandal, betrayal, and fear, something beautiful began to grow. Not just love, but hope. And hope in the wrong hands is a threat. For centuries, the planet Leora had known peace. Its people were soft-spoken, gentle, and far from the violence of the galaxy. They had no giant fleets, no super weapons, and no interest in ruling others. But now, the galaxy was watching them. Why? Because of one human visitor. And the one princess who dared to walk beside him. Inside the palace, Princess Zarin stared at a star map glowing above her table. Small red dots blinked near Leora's edge. Alien warships. Too many. Too close. They're moving faster than expected, said Captain Rayan, standing beside her. They fear change, she replied. And I am the change they never wanted. The scroll they had found in the hidden chamber was real. Ancient. And dangerous. It told of a Leoran heir who would awaken when the galaxy's peace began to crack. A princess with silent strength, who would stand not with bloodlines, but with someone outside the royal system. That's you, Rayan had said, and they know it. Outside Leora's orbit, the Vrax Dominion, Kelthari Empire, and Trellan lords had gathered, enemies of each other for centuries, now united by fear of one thing, a princess who might rewrite the rules. Meanwhile, inside the palace, the royal council argued. She must step down. She is bringing war to our gates. A human. What will the ancestors say? But Zarin was no longer hiding. She stood in the middle of the hall and raised her voice. You fear me because I am different. Because I do not follow your path. But tell me, when did your path ever lead to greatness? No one spoke. You gave up long ago. I have not. As tension grew, Rayan trained Zarin in secret. Not with weapons, but with will. They practiced in the moonlight gardens, balancing, reading strategy from old battle manuals. Rayan had once been a soldier on Earth. Had seen battles lost not by strength, but by fear. You don't need to become like them, he said. You need to become you, fully. Then, everything changed. One night, a ship arrived. Silent, no lights. Inside was a messenger from the Trellan lords. He brought a gift, a crystal dagger, and a warning. Step down, or your people will burn. The message was clear. Leave the human, give up the throne, and the galaxy will leave Leora alone. The queen wept. The king stayed silent. But Zarin? She walked into the war room, pressed her hand against the activation stone. And for the first time in history, Leora's defense systems powered on. The palace shook, walls opened. Hidden tech hummed with ancient energy. Long ago, her ancestors had prepared for this day. And now their blood flowed in her veins. I will not step down, she said. Let them come. Elsewhere, across distant planets, leaders began to prepare. She's a threat. If she lives, the system will fall. She's turning Leora into a symbol. A spark. But it was already too late. The spark had caught flame. Zarin stood with her people. For the first time, they did not see her as fragile. They saw a leader. I was rejected by every prince in the galaxy, she said. But I do not need a crown to be worthy. I do not need approval to rise. This is not just about me. This is about every voice that was ever told to stay silent. And Rayan? He stood behind her, not as her protector. Not as her prize, but as her equal. They'll come with fleets, he warned. Let them, she whispered. I have something stronger. What's that? A reason to fight. The stars above began to shift. Warships were now heading straight for Liora. The countdown had begun. The war wasn't just coming. It had already started. The sky above Leora had changed. It was no longer quiet and blue. It was red, alien, Warships now floated over the planet like metal clouds. Their lights blinked like warnings. Their weapons were ready. The galaxy had made its choice. Attack the girl. Before she rises. Inside the palace, Princess Zarin stood before an old chamber. It had no door. Just a round stone wall with glowing symbols. This place had been locked for 500 years. Only the royal bloodline could open it. But not just any. Blood. The one from the prophecy. Zarin placed her hand on the center symbol. Nothing happened. Rayan stepped forward. Maybe it's broken? Zarin closed her eyes. She thought of everything. The rejections, the insults, the loneliness, the love she wasn't supposed to feel. The war she didn't ask for. Her heart raced. Her breath slowed. Suddenly, her hand began to glow. Not bright, but hot. The wall opened. Inside was no throne. No crown, just a small platform, floating above lava, with a glowing crystal in the center. The heart of Leora, the most ancient energy, source of her people. No ruler had ever been chosen by it. But the moment Zarin stepped near, the fire beneath, it rose like a wave and wrapped around her, not to burn, but to bond. The flames did not destroy her, they became her, outside. In the control rooms of enemy ships, alarms began to scream. Energy readings spiked. One commander shouted, "Something is waking up, something old. Something we don't understand." Inside the chamber, Zarin floated above the platform, eyes closed, surrounded by light. The fire shaped around her arms like armor. Her hair flowed as if caught in solar wind. Rayan could barely look at her. She wasn't the same. Not weak. Not soft. Not silent. She was becoming something more. When she opened her eyes, her voice was calm. "It has chosen me." "What is it?" Rayan asked. "Not a weapon," she said. "A promise. That our people will never be small again." Back in the palace, the royal family saw her return. The guards dropped their weapons. The queen fell to her knees. The king whispered, "What are you?" Zarin didn't answer. She didn't need to. The fire in her eyes spoke louder than any word. Enemy. Fleets began to descend. The first blast hit Leora's shield. It shook the ground. Sirens screamed. People ran. And Zarin? She walked to the edge of the city walls. She raised one hand, and the sky split. From her body, a wave of flame shot upward, not like fire from earth, but like living light. It hit the enemy ship directly. The ship exploded, sending shockwaves across the sky. The other ships paused. For the first time, they were afraid. "That's not a princess," one alien captain whispered. "That's a weapon." But they were wrong. She wasn't a weapon. She was a warning. The people of Leora gathered behind her. They no longer called her delicate. They no longer saw her as just royal. They now called her what she truly was, Princess of Fire. That night, she stood on the same balcony where she once watched stars alone. Rayan stood beside her. "You're not the girl I met," he said. "No," she replied. "I'm not. But I'm still me. What happens next?" She looked up at the stars, the same stars that once ignored her. Now they feared her. "Next," she said, "we end this, because a fire once ignored burns the brightest when it finally breathes." Asterisk, the galaxy had armies. The galaxy had fleets. The galaxy had kings, emperors, and warlords. But they forgot one thing: humans fight differently. And this one wasn't fighting alone anymore. From deep space, over 50 warships moved toward the peaceful planet Leora. Their purpose was clear: crush the rebellion, kill the fire, silence the girl. They carried weapons built to destroy cities, soldiers bred without fear, leaders who believed their enemy was weak. But in the middle of all this power, they never saw the true threat: a single human transmission. In the hidden room beneath Leora's palace, Captain Rayan typed an emergency code into his wrist device. It was old tech, outdated. But it connected. To Earth. A green light blinked out. The message was short, requesting aid. Planet Leora, under threat. One chance to prove Earth matters in the galaxy. Come fast, or don't come at all. Captain. Rayan. He closed the screen. Now we wait, he said. Zaren stood in full armor of light, her fire pulsing like a living force around her skin. Will Earth answer? She asked. Rayan smiled. We may be slow to wake up, but when humans arrive, we don't come small. Hours passed. The enemy ships formed a circle around Leora. The Vrax Dominion spoke first. Surrender the girl and the human. We want no bloodshed. Zaren stepped forward. You already spilled blood. With your silence, the alien laughed. You're still just one girl, then. The sky shifted. Dozens of portals opened above Leora. Silver ships, black ships, and gunmetal Earthcrafts shot through space like arrows. At the center, the Earth Alliance command vessel. And behind them, a voice. This is Earthfleet Commander Juno. Leora is under our protection. You want war? Then you'll have to go through us. The galaxy had come to crush one tiny world, but now they had to fight a human-led army backed by a fire-wielding Queen. The game had changed. The battle began. Energy blasts tore through space. Missiles screamed. Shields shattered. Rayan led a squad of drop soldiers into enemy ships. He moved like a shadow, fast, clever, unpredictable. Not like alien soldiers. Trained in formations. That's the thing about humans, one enemy groaned as he fell. They never fight fair. Zaren flew above the battlefield like a comet. She was no longer just a princess. She was a symbol. She aimed her fire not to kill, but to protect. Every time a Leoran ship was in danger, she was there. Every time fear began to rise, her fire answered first. Her people saw her, not from behind walls, but leading them. Back inside the command room, alien leaders panicked. Why are they winning? She's just a girl. They're just humans, but they were wrong. She was not just a girl. And Rayan was not just a man. They were hope. And hope spreads faster than fire. On the ground, a Leoran child watched the sky glow red. His mother whispered, "That's our princess. She looks like a star," the child said. "No," the mother replied. "She is a star." As the battle ended, enemy ships pulled back. They couldn't win. Not today. Not against this. The leaders who once laughed at Zaren now watched her in silence, and for the first time in history, they bowed. Rayan stood beside her on the palace tower. His armor cracked. His hands burned, but his eyes were proud. "You led them," he said. "No," Zaren whispered. "We led them," he smiled. "You know what's next?" "The galaxy still hates me," she said. "Still fears me." "Good," Rayan replied. "Now let's give them a reason." The girl they rejected had become the storm they couldn't stop. Every crown is made of metal. Hers was made of flame. Every throne is built on fear. Hers was built on truth. The galaxy never chose her, but the stars did. The war was over. The sky above Leora no longer burned with red light. Ships were gone. Guns were silent. And the planet, once ignored, was now the center of the galaxy. Alien leaders returned to their worlds, broken and confused. How did she win? She was just one girl, and he, just one human. But legends never begin the way people expect. They begin with a choice. Zaren stood alone in the Hall of Judgment, a great open chamber where royal leaders met. To vote. She was not there to ask for their crown. She was there to return it. The king and queen of Leora sat silent as she walked forward. Her armor dimmed, her fire calm. She bowed, not because she had to, but because she chose to. "Your time is over," she said softly. "Not with hate, not with anger, but with truth. I do not wish to rule because of blood. I will rule because I have walked through fire for these people." The room was silent. Then, slowly, one by one, the nobles stood and bowed, even her father. "Rise, Queen Zarin," he whispered. "The galaxy is watching." Across the stars, something had shifted. Empires that once ruled with power now began to fall. Worlds that were silenced now began to speak, because one voice had changed everything. Not a weapon, not a warlord, just a girl who refused to be small. And Rayan, he stood at her side during the coronation, not as a husband, not as a protector, but as a partner. He wore no crown. He made no speech. He simply placed a hand on her shoulder and whispered, "You were always meant to be this." "So were you," she replied. Later that night, they stood together on the palace roof. The stars above them blinked like silent watchers. "Do you think they'll ever accept me?" Zarin asked. Rayan looked up. "They don't need to. The stars already did," she smiled. "Then we write the future ourselves." And so they did. Together, they built alliances no one thought possible. Together, they rewrote the old rules. And together, they made Leora not just a planet, but a beacon, a symbol that no voice is too small, that no race is too weak, that love is stronger than bloodlines, and that sometimes the galaxy needs the people it throws away the most. Years later, stories would be told of the girl with fire in her hands, of the human who didn't bow, of the empire born from kindness, not fear, and those who once rejected her, they would teach their children her name. Zaren. The queen the stars chose, the girl the galaxy tried to silence, but couldn't.